So you understand the negative thinking patterns that have been maintaining your low self-esteem. You're no longer accepting these beliefs. You're now challenging them and you're testing out these beliefs. Amazing. You are well on your way to overcoming low self-esteem. We've understood, we've uprooted, and now it's time to unveil. Hey, I'm Judith. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am a confidence and self-esteem coach that is on a mission to help high-achieving women to build lasting confidence through restoring their self-worth. If that sounds like you, then welcome to the family. Subscribe so that you can stay up to date of all upcoming videos. But let's get into today's video where we are going to talk about the last step in my free use framework that I use to help high-achieving women to build lasting confidence and restore their self-worth. Step 3, unveil. This is my favorite step because at this point, this is where you can truly see the transformation. This is the stage that my clients' thinking has shifted, where they're no longer shying away from opportunities that they once used to say no to, because now they see themselves in a different way. They're able to see the woman that God has called them to be. They're able to see the worth that they hold, the value that they carry, and they're ready to use it. They're ready to put themselves out there. They're no longer playing it safe, because through step 1 and step 2, transformation was taking place. So now we're at this unveiling stage. It's almost like the veil of low self-esteem has been lifted off. And now they're approaching challenges differently. This last step is all about recognizing your worth, recognizing your skill, recognizing the value that you have to offer, and also embracing your weaknesses. During stage 1, you were able to identify the unhelpful core beliefs that have been holding you back. The beliefs of not being good enough, not being competent, not being important, not thinking that your voice is valuable, that people will listen to you. You've uncovered all these beliefs in step 1. Then in step 2, you started to challenge those beliefs. You started to look for the evidence for and the evidence against. And you've also tested out some of those beliefs. Now it's time to actually hone into the value that you have to offer. I often find that when it comes to high-achieving women, as competent as they are, as amazing as they are in the things that they do, they often struggle to see the worth that they carry. They often struggle to see how much value they have to bring. Because for a lot of high-achieving women, the things that other people admire in them, they just see as something easy, as a norm. To them, it's not a big deal. And because they don't see it as a big deal, they no longer value it. By no longer valuing their skills, they end up playing it too safe. They end up playing it small and hiding themselves. When an opportunity comes that they could excel in, you may hold back. You may think, oh, I need to build up my qualifications. I need to get more training. I need to do this. For high-achieving women, they never feel like what they have is good enough. They always believe that there is more that they need to do in order to be able to go for an opportunity. So during this unveiling process, it's time for you to recognize your skills. Now, for many of you, this might be a very uncomfortable thing to do because you're not used to blowing your own trumpet. You struggle to accept compliments. You struggle to see the best in you. So this step may feel really uncomfortable, but it's necessary. I want you to take some time to look at your skills. I want you to look at your current job role. I want you to look at all the skills that are required for you to do the job that you are currently doing. You can use Google to help you with this. You can use ChatGPT to help you with this. But look at your current job description, because that will give you insight to the current skills that you have and skills that you are building to do the role that you are currently doing. It may sound really simple, but you will be surprised as to how many skills are required for you to do the current role that you are doing. And these are all skills that you have. These are all skills that you're currently using in your job role. And these are also skills that can be transferred into other areas of your life, that can help you to excel in other areas of your life, in the things that God is calling you to do. Right now, you probably believe that you have nothing worth offering. There is no point for you to even say yes to doing the thing that God is calling you to do, because you don't think that what you have is enough. You're like the widow with the jar of oil in 2 Kings, I believe it's chapter 5 or chapter 4. She didn't believe that she had something valuable to offer. She didn't believe that that little jar of oil was of any worth. She looked down on it. Yet it was that little jar of oil that allowed her and her family to enter into financial freedom, that cleared off all her debt and even left enough for her and her sons to live off. That thing that she looked down on was the answer to her prayer. For many of you, you believe that what God is calling you to do, you're the wrong person to fulfill that assignment. Because when you look at your skills, when you look at what you have to offer, you think it's not enough. Because you're so used to being that helpful friend. You're so used to being that encouraging friend. You're so used to doing all of these different tasks that you no longer see it as something valuable. But if you were to take your time to just sit down and acknowledge the different skills you have, you would realize that you are way more qualified than you give yourself credit for. You will start to see that you are, in fact, the right person to carry out this assignment that the Lord has placed in your hands to do. If you would just sit down to acknowledge your achievements, to acknowledge the skills that you have, you would look at yourself in a different way. And sometimes noticing the value that we have to offer also requires us to embrace our weaknesses. It requires us to pay attention to the areas that we don't want to acknowledge. There's certain things, there's certain areas that you believe that you're not skilled in. But yet it's those areas that God wants to use to help you to get to the next level. One of the things that I teach my ladies is the importance of embracing your weaknesses, because your weaknesses are just strengths that you haven't yet discovered. Many of the things that we see as skills, many of the things that we see as weaknesses, they're very much dependent on the context that you're in. Some of the things that you pride yourself in one context, it's an amazing skill to have, but in another context, it's probably not needed. Likewise, some of the things that you're looking down on because they don't serve you in one context could actually be really useful in another context. Don't look down on your weaknesses. Don't ignore them. Embrace them. Because depending on the season that you are in will determine whether you need to rely on those weaknesses that you've been looking down on. One thing I have come to learn about life is that, especially when you're doing life with God, you will never arrive. You will never get to a place where you feel like, yeah, I'm here now. There's nothing else to do. Every season that you enter has its challenges, and every season will require something new from you. And this is why you can't just rely on your strengths, because in some seasons, your strengths become useless. In some seasons, if you want to excel in that season, you need to rely on your weaknesses. Because there are some seasons where your strength alone cannot help you to excel, where you need to rely on your weaknesses, because when you rely and embrace on your weaknesses, that is when God's strength is perfected in you. God's strength is perfected in our weaknesses, not in our strengths. There are some seasons where you cannot rely on yourself. You cannot rely on your strength. It requires the grace of God that will help you to get to that next level. And those seasons will require you to embrace your weaknesses. Could it be possible that you're currently feeling frustrated in the current season that you're in? Not because you're being delayed, not because there's something wrong with you, but because you refuse to embrace your weaknesses. because you're just relying on your strengths. But you're in a season where God is looking at you and saying, in this season, you need to put your strengths to the side. And you need to look at the areas that you don't like. You need to look at your weaknesses, because that is where I can show up and show out in your life. Building confidence with God doesn't look like how the world builds confidence. The world will encourage you to focus on your strength. The world will encourage you to focus on the areas that you are good at. The problem with that is, what happens when you enter a season where your strengths are no longer required? What happens then? And usually that is when you may notice a fluctuation in your confidence. That is when you will notice you will feel frustrated. You will start to question your worth and value. Building confidence God's way requires you to embrace your weaknesses. It requires you to recognize that you never arrive, that there is always something more that you have to offer. And every season pulls out a different version of you if you allow it, if you surrender to the process, however hard it may be. And that is what step 3 is all about. Unveiling takes place when you are able to recognize your skills, but also embrace your weaknesses and understand that your weaknesses are just strengths that you haven't yet discovered. And that is how you build healthy self-esteem. You are worthy. You have so much value to offer. And a lot of that value is in the weaknesses that you refuse to acknowledge. After watching this video, take some time, write down your skills, but don't just leave it there. Also write down your weaknesses and ask yourself, in what context could these weaknesses actually be useful? How can I use these weaknesses? How does God want me to use these weaknesses in this season that I'm in? And see what happens. See what comes out of it. And that brings us to the end of this 3-part series on how to build healthy self-esteem so that the confidence that you build actually lasts. Building lasting confidence isn't just about stepping out of your comfort zone. It's also about your self-worth, because the way that you show up in using your skills, in using your ability, is very much determined by the value that you place on yourself. So I hope this has been helpful. I hope you've learned 1 or 2 things that you're going to be taking away and implementing in your own life so that you can build healthy self-esteem. And if you found this helpful, don't forget to subscribe so that you can stay up to date with the next video, but also comment down below a key takeaway from this video. And if you've watched all 3 parts and you're thinking, I need more, I need to know more ways that I can build lasting confidence, don't worry, I got you. In the description bar below, I have a link for you to complete my confidence clarity form. It will literally take only 5 minutes for you to complete. But after completing that form, I will personally review it and provide you with your own personalized pathway to building lasting confidence. Because this journey looks different for everyone. It's not one shoe fits all. So if you want a personalized approach to build lasting confidence and restoring your self-worth, complete that form and I'll be in touch with you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video. Bye.